welcome in to the new members and to the old members that have found their way back to the community. I need you just as much as you need me. In this morning's update, we're going to talk about the bearish proposition that's going on this morning as XRP is down 2.9%, down to 61.2 cents. For anybody who's familiar with the updates from even yesterday, the lives, you should not be surprised by this, as I showed that we were bearish, at least for the day, and a rejection point on the resistance last night would have brought us down, and it's brought us down some, but we need to look at the overall pattern formation here, because as we talked about yesterday, this looked bearish from just the ascending triangle breakdown, and anything short of breaking back up, this was going to come down to at least the 59.9 cent area, more than likely, unless 61.2 cents ends up being the support, which would be nice. I must say it would be nice. Because you did have the breakdown from there, so that could technically bring you down a little bit lower. But yeah, the breakdown technically had a target back down, and it should be around 59.9 cents. That ascending triangle breaking bearish yesterday, as we talked about yesterday during the update, during the live, I've been very transparent about how this was bearish on the breakdown. Not that the pattern overall breaks down, but right now, we've got to be understanding that we're getting rejected right now at the 627. That is the handle resistance on the lower tier. Anytime you're in the lower tier of the handle, you can break down all the way down to about 50 cents, 498 right now. And anytime you're above this 627, and in current times now, this is 62.5 cents as it continues to go down each day. Anytime now you're over 62.5 cents, it opens up the door to the move up to about 73.6. So right now, if we do show a bearish rejection here, we could have a big drop. But I want everybody to realize, as long as you hold that 599, 59.9 cents, and you could technically even hold it down at 58.6, it just gets very difficult down there, because once you get down there, the likelihood is you're going to, invalidate this inverted head and shoulders. And we're working on two different angles here, because it's either going to go very bearish or it's going to go very bullish. So left shoulder, head, right shoulder. Now, if this is a consolidatory and it ends up being that last part of that shoulder, even if you might get an overzealous push out, one could say, well, we still created that V recovery. But really, you don't want it to break down much more than this. And the main reason is you've got a head and shoulders pattern that is clearly lined up here if it breaks down. If it comes down, everybody's going to say, well, that's a clear head and shoulders, and then you have to reset. And the theory is the reset would be back down here around 50 cents. Now, if you could avoid this, the technical target on a breakout is around 75 cents. So that's why it becomes, well, are we really bearish, or are we within a consolidatory front? As we can see, resistance, resistance. Every time you haven't been able to push past these points, as you can see when we were coming up, resistance, support, and then it finally broke out. Now it started anew. And now we're consolidating. Resistance. Now, if it can't do it, it's going to hit this uptrending support again. It's already telling us this. This is already being foretold to us if we couldn't break out of this pattern, that we were going to come back down and retest this uptrending support. So that's something that I could definitely see us doing if that 599 level breaks. We've got 56 or 55 cents, and then we've got this. There's not much in between. This is the 55, and then underneath we've got that 499 level. So if we do continue to break down and we lose that 59.9 cents, I think the likelihood is we'd come down to 50 cents, fill out this part of the formation, and then we would try again. So that's if we break down. And a breakdown from here, from this particular formation, now instead of going up to 64 cents, this suggests that you could go all the way down to 40 cents, and that could be an issue because you don't want to lose that 50 cent handle. But all this is all just the guessing game right now. This is the guessing game if it were to break down. But we've got a lot of support here. We still do have an inverted pattern here, along with the head and shoulders that has not been invalidated yet. And that's unfortunate. And you can even take this from a smaller scale and look at it like this. And you can see how you get down here to that 58.6 cents if it does break all the way, or 59.9 cents, which we've almost completely come down to. We came down to 605, so we missed it by about a half a cent so far. And in the hourly, we're starting to cut down in the relative strength index. But I'm just saying, in this cup and handle pattern, we have to acknowledge the fact that if we come down any farther from where this first tier resistance on the handle is, we're going to come all the way back down to that uptrending support around 49.8 cents. Conversely, if we can reverse this, because as long as we don't invalidate that 57-cent inverted head, this is still an inverted pattern, which means at any time, if we break up, we should be coming back to around that 74 cents. And then at any time, if this handle breaks to the top side, the technical target's $1.20. As this is a very bullish setup in a cup and handle, this usually breaks up about 85% of the time. So we'll continue to watch this in real time. I want to go through the rest of it. I wanted to show that very quickly so that we could see the charts. Bitcoin right now, no surprise, we're down 366 points. Bitcoin, like we talked about yesterday very deeply, it needed a reset. And we've talked about this for the last several days. It needed to come down and retest that uptrending support to prove that this pattern was still bullish. We talked about this and front ran this for several days. In fact, we put this uptrending support a couple days ago during the live, and we talked about the breakdown. And now today, in terms, it would be 68,000 area. So if you see what's happening here, Bitcoin essentially came down on that bearish tug. You can't make that up. It had to do this. And now we're going to see, is this enough of a correction? Or is now we've got this reversal, can we start engulfing to the top side in this 3 hourly? We won't find out for the next 33 minutes exactly what's up. The 2 hours shows it to the down, and then it's picking back up. The 1 hourly, same thing. So in the last 45 minutes or so, we've had that tug down that we were looking for. Down to 68,415. No, it didn't hit it exactly. So now this line right here is so important. If you break the 68,191 area, this pattern's starting to reverse back down. And then you might have to come all the way down to 60,678. You've got to hold this uptrending support. So basically, it's giving us the evidence now. If you're being non-biased, it's giving us the evidence of what we have to do. This is essentially what the pattern's fallen into. And unless we break bullish out of this, this is turning into an ascending formation. So we can get the evidence right here at hand. And this is a small scale move. If we were to break down, this is the small scale move down to 64.5. And then conversely, if just out of the small structure we were to break up, because I like to show this, I think it's invaluable, because then, and some people don't waste their time with it because they're like, oh, that's this short move. I like the short move, because then if you break bullish or bearish out of a short move, we at least know what we're looking at. 75,750 if we broke out of this tiny structure. And that actually would make a lot of sense. But right now, unfortunately, if this does break down, remember what we talked about for a very long time. If this breaks down and this is bearish, no, we didn't even get up to 73,621, which is what I think, or what I thought from the beginning was the technical target if you held 60,690 because of the structural reversal. So Bitcoin is still very much working on this setup. It's just if we break down, we'll have to retest 64,000 area, which is still very much allowing that inverted head and shoulders to still be in play. I know it's somewhat below the neckline, but sometimes you have an overzealous retest. Now, we are down towards support, so nobody says we have to break down, but these are the targets if we break down. I like to keep it transparent day by day by day. Now, in order to break up the 85,500 and confirm that signal, you get on top of 75,732 or 735 and hold, which is the resistance of this ascending formation if you break up. Just like the support right now, 64,543 if you break down. So now you have to get above 75,735. And the moment you hold that, you have a technical breakout target of 85,572. And if we're actually looking at this for the grand, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, even if it consolidates, that's just a consolidate. I mean, this is such a beautiful looking pattern. Bitcoin right now is on a very much inverted pattern. And if it breaks down here, it's just saying we need to come to more consolidation, and it's still fine. But left shoulder, head, I mean, this is an inverted pattern unless it's not. Until it's not, this is an inverted head and shoulders. So just continue to pay attention to that with the price analysis. If you are watching this early morning this morning update, make sure to hit that like button so YouTube recommends this update. It's vital for everybody watching this morning so that they can be in the proper position, so they can have the proper perspective here. And also at the end of this, if you stick around for the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to read this about Ripple Advocate explains how SEC's $2 billion demand from Ripple can hurt the XRP army. So we're going to read that little article here before we leave as well. We've already tackled a lot of the technical analysis. We'll look at the XRP Bitcoin pairing as it gave us a very big clue yesterday that we were about to break down. And we talked about the extension zone. If we didn't want to break down and push the XRP Bitcoin pairing down towards that 854 area, we had to hold that little uptrend in the extension area, which we did not. And now we open up the door if we want to talk about this. And this lines up pretty good if we're being honest with ourselves. And we're going to take the short part of the pattern because the other part consolidated. And this is really a short-term width that we could actually take and be proud of. But that's like that's the 768 if it were to break down. So if this were to break down, we're going down to 768. Well, the same positivity we were seeing out of the XRP Bitcoin pairing is that same kind of trouble now we're starting to see. And that doesn't mean that XRP is going to crash or anything like that. This could simply just mean that Bitcoin is moving faster than XRP. Well, that means that it could either be falling faster or rising faster than XRP, even if they're in the same exact flow. So just pay attention to this. We are starting to get overbought in the smaller time frames, like the hourly. So I would expect this, if it wants to finish this off, it could. But if at any time we get back over that 898 area, we can get back up into the extended zone. So we'll see how this plays out exactly. We'll see exactly how this plays out. And in fact, the cool thing is we could actually open up this pattern with more evidence if it pulls back up, but we can't do that yet. And what I mean by that is you could say, well, it's given us this part of the pattern. It's given us this if it holds, but you can't say that unless it does hold. So we'll see exactly how this evolves. We'll continue watching the XRP Bitcoin pairing as the days go on. Let me get to the intro very quickly. Please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube recommends this update. I've gone 12 minutes without even doing the intro. So good morning, 10:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. And if you're looking to trade XRP in the USA, even Canada or abroad, but mainly for the USA users, and you're looking to trade without a VPN, you don't want to feel like a criminal. You want a site that's going to be up during the high times of volatility so you can take advantage of this drop, or you can take advantage of what's to come. You can line yourself in a good position. BITUNIX, it's in the video description below and or pinned comments. They have lowest spot and leverage trading fees in the USA, bar none. You don't need to use a VPN, and if you're doing it from exchange to exchange, you don't even need to do a KYC. It's not necessary. So if a bank account's not involved, you're not using a KYC. So you can actually trade in private, secret, do whatever you want. So pay attention to that. And then also in the video description below and our pinned comments is MEXC. So if you're looking to buy XRP Healthcare, as it's having a little bit of a retracement today, but it's still over 4 cents. So it's still up, but it had to push up to about 4 or 5. Make sure you look at MEXC so that you can buy it. Obviously, new users in the USA, not available. This is going to have a nice correction, I assume, down back to about 3.2. So let's watch this, see if we hold the 3.2 area. The only other way this could avoid that drop is if you hold this 3.9, and I'm not necessarily sure it's got the ability to hold that wick resistance as support just yet, but we will see. And thanks to the audience members who were teaching me about this during lives as well, as far as the staking goes, I did do my XRP Healthcare right from their site. I'm staking it for 6 months right now at 20%. So, and I have 34,400 tokens. I was vastly underestimating what I had, and I continued buying yesterday again, my normal purchases, but I vastly underestimated what I've done the last almost 10 days now. So it was at 23,000, but it's jumped up over the last several days big time. So when I did stake it, I did send everything I had, and it was 34,400 tokens. So that's what's being staked for the next 6 months on the xrphealthcare.com website. That's their own wallet. So and there's about 20 something million right now that are being staked. So It's pretty interesting. So you get 20% but you have to hold it for 6 months. There's a 10% penalty if you decide to sell it in the 6-month staking period. 12 months you get 25%, and it's a 12.5% fee if you sell it early. So consider that. Precious metals are moving a little bit, but let's continue this update. XRP market cap's down 2.44% to 38.83 billion. We have absolutely broken down here, and we talked about if it broke up, you had to rise out of there, and then you could have a push out. Unfortunately, we have had to push down like we talked about yesterday. Our first support here is right around 33 billion. You break that, it comes down to 31.9. If you come through this, that head and shoulders pattern is taking place. The important part of where we're at right now for XRP and Bitcoin is the inverted pattern is still very much in play. Inverted left arm, inverted head. Now this inverted right shoulder, it can come all the way down and retest that area. This is still an inverted pattern. Unless it breaks through here, it's going to be very difficult to hold. So we really want to see this area hold, which it has so far at 33 billion. And we can see support on the left shoulder, head, support, and then support here on the right shoulder inverted. So I still see the inverted pattern right now. And as long as it shapes out and doesn't break down, this is going to be a nice volatile swing up. If it breaks down and we lose this, the head and shoulders pattern plays through and it breaks down the inversion, and you'd come back down to a reset, which would probably bring you somewhere down here. It could stop here, but I highly doubt it's going to stop there if this pattern gets invalidated. We are starting to get into the overbought, though, with the RSI, so that could be our saving grace here as the next day or two goes. So just pay attention to the targets I've set out. And now I want to do some reading before I leave. So I appreciate everybody tuning into this morning update. Please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube will recommend this update. It'll help us push through the algorithm. So that just simply means if you're going through your YouTube feed, this update pops up, my content pops up. So new and old users as well will be able to find their way back home, because you're more likely to click on this content if you see it, because out of sight, out of mind. So please pay it forward in that perspective. If you want to show me personal support as we are approaching the end of the month, all I ask is one YouTube super chat per month, or consider joining Tom's Army to pay it forward. Get the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens in month 1. So we're going to end it with this. Ripple advocate explains how SEC's $2 billion demand from Ripple can hurt XRP Army. Lawyer Jeremy Hogan, partner at Hogan & Hogan, who is a major Ripple supporter and closely follows the Ripple SEC cases, taken to X social media network, formerly known as Twitter, to share his comments on the demand recently made by the SEC on Ripple in court. Hogan pointed out that this is yet another case of the SEC intending to work against its own oath to protect investors and their funds. The SEC demands Ripple pays $2 billion in remedy. The only good thing about this is if Ripple were to agree to anything less than $2 billion, from the public perception, it'd be seen as good. So they've actually, in a lot of ways, there's no way they're going to pay $2 billion. But let's just say it's a couple $100 million. It's going to look a hell of a lot better than $2 billion. And now for Ripple, what the hell do they care about saying something that the SEC doesn't like? What are they going to do? Fine them a few more million? At this point, $2 billion is such a high fine. You basically, Brad Garlinghouse, Christian A. Larson's in the bunch, they get to go, I can say whatever the hell I want now. $2 billion, so ridiculous. What are they going to do? Throw on a few million? Who cares? It's $2 billion. What's the matter? They throw a couple million on top. So now the ball is honestly in their court now. The SEC's basically hung themselves upside down over an open bridge that has no water underneath, it just rocks. Hogan reminded the XRP community about the remedies demanding the amount of $2 billion made by the Securities and Exchange Commission. Recently on Ripple Labs, this enormous sum in fiat, per the SEC, would serve as relief, including injunctive relief, civil penalties, and disgorgement of profits. Besides the regulator, and the ironic part is the disgorgement of profits is horseshit, because there's only about 500 and something million that they're, 5 to 600 million that they're mad about, and they want XRP or Ripple for the unregistered sales to the institutional investors. So basically they're asking for 4 times as much as they actually earned. So make it make sense. Besides, the regulator stressed that the fine would be a sort of compensation for the harm caused by Ripple's operation to investors in financial markets. FYI, the only harm being caused to investors right now is by the SEC, because holders know what they're holding. Hogan pointed out that paying this mammoth-sized fine would make Ripple sell a great amount of XRP, causing the price to drop, hurting the retail holder. Besides the beliefs that the SEC would then disgorge that money back to rich institutional holders. Hogan completed this tweet with a question for the XRP community regarding whether they feel protected by the SEC after this. How backward has the SEC got this? It wants $2 billion from Ripple, which would require Ripple to sell a lot of XRP, causing the price to drop, hurting the retail holder, you. It would then disgorge that profit back to rich institutional investors. Ripple advocate John Deaton calls for SEC boss's resignation. Another vocal Ripple advocate, and now also a candidate for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts, John Deaton has tweeted calling for SEC Chairman Gary Gensler to resign from position. Deaton reminded the community about the time when the Securities Exchange Act was created in 1934 and the purpose of its launch. Investors got wiped out from the 1929 crash. The SEC was a good idea, stressing that the SEC's overall positive impact on the average American's wealth was achieved thanks to equity markets. Deaton says that despite this, Congress and the SEC have failed to keep up with technological breakthroughs, such as a blockchain and cryptocurrency. As a private citizen and a candidate for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts, I'm calling for the resignation of SEC Government Chairman Gary Gensler. Under Gensler, the SEC has forgotten or intentionally abandoned its primary mission in protecting innocent investors. They are still applying laws made in 1934 to digital assets like Bitcoin. Now, crypto is now owned by 30% of Americans, 93 million people. Deaton says, hinting, that's kind of a high number. I might have to look elsewhere. If 30% are now in crypto, we might get into the wrong area now. Deaton says, hinting that the SEC should radically change its approach to this asset class. Sadly, securities laws enacted in 1933 have not been updated by Congress. That's right. We apply 1930s and 1940s laws to modern-day technologies like artificial intelligence and blockchain technologies like Bitcoin. This has allowed unelected regulators like Gensler to apply Johnny Deaton at John Deaton 1, March 26, 2024. Thank you all for watching this morning update. Please make sure to hit that like button so YouTube recommends this update. Special shout out to the members of Tom's Army. Thank you for putting this community first and paying it forward each and every month. Other than that, if you made it until the end, hashtag be better, do better in the comments so that I know you made it until the end. Remember, we're here to advance. I want people here who are here for advancement. We don't play the victim, we play the winner. And if you're playing the victim in comments, you're missing out on a whole lot of education here. So please make sure to make it a loving experience. Positivity over negativity.